Hello, my creative friends, and welcome to another episode of The Daily Prompt. Now, I've decided I'm going to continue to call this series The Daily Prompt because ultimately my goal is to get back to a daily release schedule. Whether it's through this or whether it's through what the original idea was, is to go out and make behind-the-scenes videos and all sorts of film-related stuff as we build the independent film studio. Now, obviously, we've gotten off to a little bit of a slow start with all this. It's been a little frustrating. It's been a little... disappointing for me that spelling all this out, that trying to convince you to help me help you by building this thing hasn't attracted more people and more interest. But I've been really sort of pondering this and thinking it through and trying to figure out how to sort of widen the net, I needed to find a way to get me reignited and re-excited about doing this with and for you. I think part of the problem is when I set out to do all this, I just wanted to do this big sort of info exchange, just give you everything that I've got and then have the thing build organically. And then one of the frustrating things about it was that starting to do that and just getting no traction, getting nobody really interested in, not none, but insufficient traction to actually build this and lift this to the next level. What I want to introduce is a plan B kind of a thing. So to reiterate, I'm building an independent film studio. We are going to make many, many films. The goal originally was 3 to 6 films a year. Now, as time has moved on, as technology has changed, as the opportunities have changed, my goal really is to create a distribution mechanism where we release about 50 films a year, which means many multiple overlapping productions in LA, in Australia, all around the world. And that means needing lots and lots of writers. Now, I can't have writers submit me their material because I spent nearly 20 years doing that. And what I found when people submitted their material was that fewer than 1 in 1,000 projects was actually viable. So I know you have a great idea. I know you think that we're in sync with each other and you want to submit me that idea. But every time it happens, the projects are just not viable. So I can't accept outside submissions. So what I did was I built a system to help writers go from the great idea to not just a screenplay, but a viable screenplay we could actually use. And by guiding writers through the process, we can train them in all the things that we need them to have and all the skills we need them to be, and how to turn their ideas into something original, how to make that something original actually something viable. And then we end up with writers who have the skills to be able to do this. And that's what fast screenplay is all about. Now, I get that you may not want to do fast screenplay, but there's a reason I built it, and the reason was not to make money off of writers. The reason was to get viable projects at the end and get writers who have the skills to be able to develop viable projects within a production-focused program, which is what the writer's room is all about, which is where we have writers who have gone through the process, who are developing projects that we will then start building our film studio by producing those projects. So people have asked along the way that I see in these comments, like, what do you want me to actually do, Jeff? I want to help you, but what do you want me to do? Well, I want you to join Fast Screenplay and go through this process. Don't just join it, go through the process and develop these skills and then be able to write stuff that we can then produce. That's what I would love to have everybody do. Now, I get that not everybody wants to do that, which is fine. But I do still want to build this distribution mechanism. And so I do still want to be able to teach as many people as possible, as much as I can, about writing and creativity and how to take your ideas and actually turn them into films. We live in the most extraordinary era in history. We don't live in the old Hollywood model anymore. 90% of all screenwriting education is taught as if we're writing movies in the 80s or 90s. It's not the case anymore. Anyone can make movies anywhere on the planet now. We can make movies for a tiny fraction of what they used to cost. We can distribute them to a worldwide global audience, and that's what I'm trying to do. That's what I'm trying to build. Because only by doing that, only by taking an idea from your head, turning it into a screenplay, and then actually seeing that screenplay turned into a movie, Only in that gap there will you actually develop the nuance and the insight and the perspective that enables you to infuse those skills, that knowledge, that creativity into your process on every subsequent project. So the only way you're going to actually be able to develop material for the studios, develop original material for production, is by having that understanding, by knowing those skills, by having that experience, being able to demonstrate that experience. And that's the mechanism I'm trying to build, which people don't seem to be getting too excited about. So what I want to offer is, if you go out and you do this without me, if you go out and you write your own script, you say, Jeff, I like you. I'm going to watch all your free stuff, but I'm never going to give you a cent. I'm not going to sign up for your system. I'm not going to, which you offer at cost. I'm not going to pay your cost. I'm not going to cover your bills. I'm just going to take this information and go out and do it on my own. If you do that, fantastic. Let's embrace that. Why don't we, instead of making it a join me at a cost, or that's it, this is never going to work, why don't we scrap that and say, instead, if you want to join me through this process, then we'll build the films together. You'll get ownership percentage, you'll get a credit, you'll get all that stuff. If you don't want to do that and you instead want to write films and go make them yourself, or you want to write films and go find local producers, or all the sort of indie level stuff that I've been talking about, and you actually go out and you make those projects, what I want you to do is I want you to send me not the script, but the ultimate film. If you can send me the film, what I'll do is we'll create an area of this distribution mechanism that I'm trying to build, where we're going to show films or have available films from other producers, from outside the system. So not as a comparison, not as a way to say, hey, what's better, what's not. The goal is to give the audience greater and greater entertainment value, entertainment prospects. The goal is for people to have a steady stream of interesting new voices. The goal is to have to create a place where we can not only learn how to do this stuff, where we not only develop these skills and see transparently how these skills get developed, but we also have new voices. We have voices from outside the Hollywood system. We have voices from all around the world. We have stories that are not going to ever be told in the mainstream Hollywood ecosystem, just because maybe they're a little more niche, maybe because they're stories that are probably not going to connect with millions and millions of people, but maybe would have a large enough audience to attract some general interest. The idea is, we make many films each year. We release multiple films a year. We can mix and match. It doesn't have to be all big blockbusters. So therefore, we can tell different kinds of stories. We can tell stories that we think will affect people or change the world or change people's perceptions of storytelling itself. But all through it will help people understand how to go from idea to story to screenplay to the deal or to production. So in that way, we're taking these random ideas that are bouncing around in your head, and we're actually making them real. We're bringing them to life. We're taking them out of your imagination and giving them to the world. That's what you do when you tell stories. That's what you do when you take the time to actually sit down and write something, when you capture what's in here. Look, whatever's going on in here, whatever's bouncing around in your head, that's bouncing around in your head, and that's great. It makes you feel good. It's your imagination. You love it. You can swim around in it. But if you can actually harness that and capture that and figure out a way to present it to the world such that other people can be moved by it, can have their eyes opened from it, can enjoy or experience emotion through the story that you've created, you've taken your idea, which makes you feel good, and you've given it, you've spread it, you're making other people feel good. The idea behind my TED Talk, the crux of it, was that we each live a unique experience. We each have a unique window on our world. And because we do, we see things no one else will ever see. But we also interpret those things in ways no one else would ever interpret it, due to our DNA, due to our past history, due to the skin color that we have, due to the socioeconomic environment we grew up in, or our educational, all the variables give each of us this unique imagination. And it is by sharing our imagination, it is by telling our stories, it is by spreading our stories that we're going to actually change things and steer the future and have a little piece of influence on the new trajectory of where it's all going. So my vision, my goal, my plan is all so much bigger than what's been happening for this past year in relation to it. And to support me on this effort, all I ask you to do is help me cover the costs of doing it, which is join the system. If you don't want to do that, that's fine. I still want your ideas. I still want your contribution. I still want you to take your idea, turn it into a story, connect with a local producer, make it into a film, and let's get those movies out there. So at the end of the day, hopefully we'll start to take a little bit of a new direction with this daily prompt. It's not going to be daily, but we will eventually get it back to daily. So we'll keep it as the name for daily. We'll keep the top and tail as it is right now. But ultimately, that's where we're at. That's where we're going. I'd love it if you'd like to join me. I'd love it if you'd like to be a part of it. We're still looking for volunteers and for team members and all that stuff, but I don't want to push that too much. I don't want to make you think that this show is about that. I want you to know that this show is going to be about trying to empower you and trying to help you and trying to get you where you're trying to go, whether you ever join me or not, because it morphed previously into, come on, join me, rather than just me giving. And so I want to get back to just the selfless giving and I'm going to give you what I've got. So we're going to talk about technique. We're going to talk about how to build a story. We're going to talk about all the screenwriting tips you ever wanted. We're going to talk about all that stuff. I really do believe that you need the process to go through. And I do believe that going through Fast Screenplay first so that you can then take all those new ideas and drop them into place is going to be the better approach. But I want you to do it however you want to do it. So make sure to subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Make sure to follow us on all the social media. We're not doing too much on that at the moment, but again, as resources come online, we will be getting back into that. So hopefully this is interesting. I will try to keep these shorter than this one. I want to try to shrink these down to maybe 5 minutes each day or 10 minutes each day, something shorter. So I welcome your feedback. If you have any questions, we're going to get back to doing some Q&A. So please pop any questions that you might have in the comment section. Please comment. Let me know. Do I sound like a madman here, or does this sound like something you're interested in? So whatever the case, it doesn't really matter because I'm doing it anyway. But hopefully you're interested. So thanks for watching. I thank you for your time. We're going to respect your time by ending this here. We will see you tomorrow or soon. Thanks for watching.